Hi, I'm Alex Martino, as most of you know, and this is my global community project. My topic is the war, the rationale behind war, and the causes of war. So I'm going to focus mostly on the United States, just because they're our close neighbors, they've waged a lot of wars, they've been in a lot of wars, and they're very open about that kind of stuff. And I'd like to first point out that on Wikipedia, it says, under the title of the United States War Crimes, it states that the armed forces of the United States of America have committed war crimes throughout every war they have been involved in. Every war. And that's mostly because the war crimes can be prosecuted through the War Crimes Act of 1996 in the United States, but the United States government does not accept the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court over its military forces. It listens to the International Criminal Court, it follows its laws, except when it comes to its military. The United States military is precious to them, it's their one prized possession. I'd also like to point out that though Canada may not have Canada War Crimes section in Wikipedia, Britain does, but it's less than half the size of Americans. Less than half. So I've narrowed it down to about 4 reasons why wars are usually waged, and by reasons and causes, I'm talking about the real reasons behind it, not the ones that they tell everyone it is. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, don't worry, but these are the real reasons, or the ones most people believe on. Well, when later on I will be talking about rationale. The rationale is what they put forth in the public, what they tell people the reasons are, and how they do that. So my first reason is greed. Greed is a major part in all our lives, obviously, but when it comes to war, it plays a huge part. The war in Afghanistan, honestly, everyone knows that the theory that it was started because the Middle East has a lot of oil and the United States wanted that oil. Michael Moore wrote and directed a lovely documentary called Fahrenheit 9/11 about 9/11 and the wars that came after that, and because of that, he says. And it's a nice documentary. If you want to check it out, I have a link. But in it, he finds someone of the Bush administration that actually has something quite nice to say about oil. And though he is very biased, he does have a point.
You come in September 12th, ready to plot what response we take to Al-Qaeda. Let me talk to you about the responses you got from top administration officials on that day. What did the president say?
The president, in a very intimidating way, left us, me and my staff, with the clear indication that he wanted us to come back with the word that there was an Iraqi hand behind 9/11, because they had been planning to do something about Iraq from before the time they came off.
Did he ask about any other issues
No,
other than Iraq?
No, not at all. It was Iraq, Saddam, find out, get back to me.
And were his questions more about Iraq than about Al-Qaeda?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He didn't ask me about it.
And the reaction you got that day from the defense secretary, Don Rumsfeld, and his assistant, Paul Wolfowitz?
Well, Donald Rumsfeld said, when we talked about bombing the Al-Qaeda infrastructure in Afghanistan, he said there were no good targets in Afghanistan. Let's bomb Iraq. And we said, but Iraq had nothing to do with this. And that didn't seem to make much difference. And the reason they had to do Afghanistan first was it was obvious that Al-Qaeda had attacked us. And it was obvious that Al-Qaeda was in Afghanistan. The American people wouldn't have stood by if we had done nothing on Afghanistan.
Smoke them out of their holes.
Where smoke him out? Smoke him out. Smoke him out of his cave. That's Russia, let's smoke him out.
All this tough talk. Bush really didn't do much.
But what they did was slow and small. They put only 11,000 troops into Afghanistan. There are more police here in Manhattan than there are U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
mass murderer who attacked the United States was given a 2-month head start? Who in their right mind would do that?
Anybody say nice shot? Nice shot. Hell of a shot.
Or was the war in Afghanistan really about something else? Perhaps the answer was in Houston, Texas.
Well, there's another side to every story. So on the front page magazine, their website, frontpagemag.com, there is an article by a man who says, if oil were a major factor for persecuting war in Iraq, it stands to reason that the United States would be getting substantial amounts of it. It may come as a shock to Greenwald as well as a number of other Americans, but with regard to importing oil, the overwhelming percentage of our imported oil does not come from the Middle East. Then they go on to say that Canada and Latin America provide the United States with 34.7% of imported oil, while the entire Persian Gulf, led by Saudi Arabia, provided them with only 12.9%. They have a lovely little chart that shows that the United States were importing more oil from Iraq right up until 9/11 than they are up to 2013 now. My third point is that war is usually waged to appease people. This is especially true in the United States because, as most of us know, the United States are not the kind of people who like governments that just sit back and do nothing. They're not really happy with Obama right now, and I think that's mostly due to the fact that he's more of a let's talk this out kind of president, while Bush was a let's invade them kind of president. Bush liked to act on what was going on, and this is a pro and a con to his presidency. I mean, like, if he hadn't done anything after 9/11, he would have been thrown right out of office, but his choice was not the wisest. So, but they did like him. Most of the people say he was stupid and this stuff, but obviously they elected him. Obviously they elected him, and that was for a reason, and I think that's because he was a go-getter. He was. Whether it's his little speechwriters that made him do that, or he himself did it, I don't know. But that would be why I would say like the fourth and final reason would be the government in the States and the government in other countries. It's their lack of control of the military and like special operations stuff like that. In the States, they have the United States Special Operations Command, or the USSOCOM. And Michael Moore, on his website, michaelmoore.com, he writes, since 9/11, USSOCOM's budget has quadrupled. The Special Operations Order of Battle has expanded accordingly. At present, there are an estimated 66,000 uniformed and civilian personnel on the rolls, a doubling in size since 2001, with further growth projected. Yet this expansion has already begun under Obama's predecessor. His essential contribution has been to broaden the Special Ops mandate. As one observer put it, the Obama White House let Special Operations Command off the leash. So basically what they're saying is that the budget for USSOCOM has increased by 4 times since 9/11, and their personnel has increased by 2 times since 9/11. Congress in the states has barely any control over the spending and behavior and actions of their Special Operations Command, and reasons like that is reasons they go to war. Like, the Special Operations Command can do what they want. In other countries, they can wage war on who they want. Obviously, with the president's approval, but it's not like he can stop them. And they release propaganda messages. They convert people to their side, which the president has to go along with. The majority of his country wants to go to war. He can't say no, or else they're going to vote him out and bring someone who wants to go to war into office. And so I'm going to talk about the rationale right now. I focus on George Bush Law because not only is he an easy target, but most of the war on terror was fought when he was in office. So, a man on the Wall Street Journal online articles he writes that he writes about the war and the reasons for it, and he says, the United States, their one great accomplishment, no subsequent attacks on American soil thus far, has been offset by stunningly incompetent prosecution of the war. It could be no other way, with war aims that inexplicably danced up and down the scales, from ending tyranny in the world to reforging in the matter of months, the political culture of the Arabs, to establishing democracy in Iraq, to only reducing violence, to merely holding out on our cantonments until we withdraw. So what he's saying, basically, is that the Bush administration, they have changed their rationale about the war over time, depending on how it's going. So at first, it was, they're ending tyranny in the world. Afghanistan or Iraq and Afghanistan and Middle East attacked us and attacked the World Trade Center, which was a sad day. But we're saying that's why we waged war on them, to defend ourselves for further attacks. And then the war wasn't quite going in their way, so they went, hey, we're here because we're just trying to establish democracy, and it was going even worse for them. They said, oh, we're only here to reduce violence in their country for them, and we're only here, to liberate the people, to help them from an oppressed government. We're trying to change that for them. And then, since then, it's changed to, we're just staying here until we can withdraw. Reason enough? I don't think so. When 9/11 happened, a few days later, or a few months later, on March 19th, Bush released a video to the American public waging war on terror. What do you call it? A war on terror. And
The people you liberate will witness the honorable and decent spirit of the American military. In this conflict, America faces an enemy who has no regard for conventions of war or rules of morality. Saddam Hussein has placed Iraqi troops and equipment in civilian areas, attempting to use innocent men, women, and children as shields for his own military. A final atrocity against his people. I want Americans and all the world to know that coalition forces will make every effort to spare innocent civilians from harm. A campaign.
And he has a few reasons in there and a few goals in mind, which obviously didn't happen. And what we see about war on the news and in TV articles and movies, all that stuff, it's far from the truth most of the time. The people who talk to us about war and why we should go and why the states are waging war and why there's international war going on and all this stuff, they're the people who are sitting in their little mansions getting government funding for doing that, spending the money needed. Well, the soldiers are actually the important ones, and the soldiers are actually the ones who really know what's going on over there and really know the truth about it. And it doesn't always involve liberating the people or sparing civilian lives or any of that stuff.
War is not about honor. This war is about profiteering. This war is about money. You have civilians, private contractors who are sitting in Iraq in their fat asses doing nothing, getting paid $100,000 plus, while KBR is getting billions of dollars in contracts, unaccounted for. No bid contracts, KBR along with the other companies. And you know what's the worst part? Is these politicians sending us to war who have their stocks and their money invested in these wars. And that's just profiteering. We're nothing but pawns being used for their political agendas. When I joined the military, I raised my hand and said that I'll protect the Constitution of the United States and its people. And against against foreign and domestic enemies. But guess what? I did not raise my hand to protect private companies like KBR and put my life on the line so they can make a buck. When are we going to realize that people fighting in Iraq against us, they're not terrorists, they're soldiers. What would we do if somebody invaded us? I know I would pick up my weapon and fight against them. What the hell we call them? Terrorists? These people want their country back. Let's give them their country back.
And they made a video all about that. War is a lot of times that's the topic, but I chose to do this just because I felt my voice needed to be heard, and it honestly interested me. And if you want to look further into it, there are the video links in this video. The video clip I used, there are video links to them in the video. I'm just copying the links into the browser now, because the parts that I showed you, they're only like a few minute segments, while there are so much more to them. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something. I hope I enticed your curiosity. I look forward to watching your videos about it. It deserves an A. Hi, I'm Alex Santino.